Good evening to all you wisdom walkers out there. My name is Jojopahmaria Nsoroma, and it's my pleasure to be here with you on my YouTube live stream of the Wisdom Walk, which I'm also going to be broadcasting over Blog Talk Radio at the same time. I still haven't figured out yet how to match up the times because I actually have an introduction song that's playing right now and have muted my mic. I forgot last week, but this week I did. I muted my mic on the radio broadcast. But it takes about a good 3 minutes. And so until then, I will just entertain you a little bit, get you ready for what I'm going to be talking about tonight. Also, last week, I got cut off after the first 21 minutes of my live stream and ended up needing to do the other half of it, which I got to, I think, around Thursday of last week. So the last week live streams are in 2 parts, which are posted. The other thing I wanted to make sure people know, if you're watching this live, that once I finish streaming, it gets put into my YouTube channel archive. And so, for some reason you're not able to watch the live stream all the way through, you still will be able to see the YouTube that I do. It'll be captured and kept up in the cloud for God knows how long, but it'll be there. So I figured out that I had to use the Chrome internet platform to use YouTube Live. And so I'm doing that this week, and I have my fingers really crossed that that will work and that I won't get cut off. But again, if I do, I will definitely YouTube the rest of it for you, hopefully this time before Thursday of the week so that you get it as close to the live stream time as possible. So tonight I'm going to be continuing my talk about truthful transformation. And this will be the second aspect of it that I share tonight. Last week it was accountability. And tonight it's going to be about time framing. And it's kind of a word I made up because I'm turning it into a verb. It's usually just a noun. And as soon as I begin the regular broadcast, I'll give you tonight a definition of what I mean by that. But I hope that everyone listening in is in good health or on your way back to health, because I really believe being alive means that we're going to be out of balance every now and then. And so if you are out of health, hopefully you're getting back into good health. And, we're getting close to spring. I know those of you on the East Coast and the Midwest dealing with the cold and the snow and the winter, real winter. I just get rain out here in California. Just take it easy. It really is a hibernation time, and stay wrapped up and just know that the spring is coming. Okay, I hear that my music has stopped. I'm going to unmute that mic and begin the official start of the show. Good evening and welcome to Wisdom Walk here on Black Hole Radio and also on my YouTube live streaming channel of Wisdom Walk to Self-Mastery. I am your host and guide, Jojopahmaria Nsoroma, and February is the first of 3 fire months we get every year. And we are in a mineral year, according to the wisdom that I keep. And it's a year of clarity, confidence, and courage. It is a month full of the energy of transformation. So it's a perfect time to consciously work on transforming yourself to be more true to yourself. My 4 broadcasts this month will explore the 4 aspects of truthful transformation found in America's significant cultural events, or the significant cultural events celebrated in America, because Chinese New Year is one of them. And of course, that's celebrated in China and all over Asia and the world. But I'll be focusing on Groundhog Day, which I did last month, Chinese New Year tonight, and then Following will be Valentine's Day and, of course, Black History Month. Tonight, I am going to be sharing this wisdom and insights, as I said, on time framing and its relationship to Chinese New Year's, or rather Chinese New Year's relationship to time framing. And I hope that you get some really good insight and support for your wisdom walking out of what I'm going to share. Now, for those of you who may be listening in or watching for the first time, let me give you a brief overview of the show. Wisdom Walk is a personal development resource for your mind, body, and soul. My ministry is any pain that is not transformed will be transferred. So the essential goal of my shows is to support you in learning how to recognize and release any and all pain that may be blocking your fulfillment in life, or what I also like to call having your happy endings in life. Every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, I broadcast live both on Black Hole Radio and YouTube Live, unless I'm on hiatus. If for some reason you can't access the internet to listen or watch, you may listen to this live radio broadcast and or call into the show at this number. It's area code 563-999-3089. Again, that's 563-999-3089. Also, as a reminder, for those of you who listen over the radio and receive a link for that, either through my Facebook page, Wisdom Walk Radio, or in a constant contact email, that's also an archive link, like this YouTube will be as well. So if you're unable to listen live, you can always listen in later. So now I invite you to join me by sitting or laying back as we go on an exploration of the inner landscape, where you can connect to your soul and discover the true treasure of being human. What a week. What a week this has been. A very interesting week, full of a lot of surprises. And as always, I want to start off my work tonight with you by first honoring the ancestors. And since we'll be talking about time framing, and as you'll learn more, that time framing has to do with right timing and right use of time, I wanted us to call on those ancestors who knew how to honor their time and taught you how to do that. In other words, they didn't squander time. They didn't waste time. They really felt it was important to make sure that you are doing things that are going to grow you, enhance you, help you make your contributions, help you keep your promises and live on purpose. You know, sometimes these people may have shown up as taskmasters, people who kept you on schedule, people who reminded you it's time. But those people who really were able to do a good job of that. When I think about who were the people that helped me honor time, I think about my grandmother and my grandfather, as well as my mother too, but especially I was so blessed to have the opportunity to grow up with a grandmother and a grandfather. And I got to watch them age and see how they handle the experience of aging. And something that I learned from them, something they demonstrated about time, is how they got up early in the morning and they would have their coffee and sometimes their biscuits. But the morning time was a very precious time for them. It was the beginning of the day, the start of the day. They never complained. You know, it wasn't like, oh, like me. Oh my God, I'm so tired. I can hardly open my eyes. I can't get out of bed. No, they were just like, oh, it's time to get up, time to make the coffee. You know, there was never a complaint. It was just amazing. It's like, how do you do that? But it was because they really honored their time. They were so grateful to wake up in the morning and to be with each other and to be with the family. And it was a precious thing to them. And I am doing much better about waking up as long as I make sure I get enough sleep. But I do try to wake up every day with a smile on my face. Or at least it's my intention that once I brush my teeth, I'm going to be smiling because I think back to my grandparents and think back to, yeah, this is really important that you have been given a whole 14, 18 hours worth of time to live and to laugh and to cry and to figure things out and to be of service. Like, this is a precious thing. So join me in thinking about who in your ancestral line, someone who's no longer with us, was able to help you really understand and feel good about the use of time. So I'm going to do a little invocation here and call these folks up so that we are gifted with just more consciousness about the fact that our time is limited and precious. Creator, Mother, Father, God, Source, all the one, all that is, thank you, thank you, thank you for the opportunity to be mindful and to remember the importance of time. And Creator, I'm so grateful for these ancestors who knew the importance of time, who honored it, who made great use of it, who didn't complain, but saw each moment of their life as a new opportunity, that even when things weren't going their way, even when they were inundated with big problems, that they still were able to say, okay, we can make a way to go forward. We can get out of this. It can get better. And they were masters of right use of time, right use of time. And so we're calling out to those ancestors tonight to come and help us remember the importance of the time that we have been given, and to help us make right use and good use of the time that we have in this world, in this dimension, in this life. And Creator, I want to again thank you for this opportunity and for these wonderful ancestors, your great emissaries to us to help us walk a good red road, a good straight path. And so I thank you for all of this in the name of all that is holy. I say amen. Ashe Ahoasa Shinga Bismillah, and so it is. Ashe. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're now going to move into looking at some of the astrological information as well as elemental information for this week coming up. And our week begins on a Tuesday, because that was the first day of the week that January 1st fell on here in Western culture. And in the wisdom that I keep, the 5 elements of the Dagara medicine wheel and their teachings, this Tuesday, the 12th, also Abraham Lincoln's birthday, will be a fire week. And here's some opportunity for you in this week. Be truthful with yourself and others. Call upon the ancestors to bring you clarity when you feel confused or conflicted, just like we did a moment ago. Walk your talk. Excuse me. Live in self-referred consciousness, meaning trust your intuition and honest feelings more than the opinions, advice, or judgments of others. Allow your inner authentic self to be in charge of your life versus the image of yourself that you project out to the world. As Mr. Rogers said, people can love you exactly the way you are. And this is so synchronistic because as I'm getting ready to talk about astrologically, we have some stuff going on with the planets that is also kind of reinforcing or supporting, if you will, this notion of us really being able to step into the truth of who we are and taking charge of that and being honest with ourselves and what we know and what we feel. Now, anytime you have an opportunity, there's always going to be some distractions that show up. So here are 4 of them that you want to be on the lookout for so that you can shift out of it when they and if they occur. The first is about convincing yourself that you need to maintain the status quo, which is I've got to go along with what everybody else is doing because if I don't, fill in the blank. They won't like me, they won't love me, they'll think I'm weird, da 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 da, whatever the excuse is. Be careful of that. Be careful of that. Stay away from falling out of what your unique experience, beliefs, and what you need to do really is. Second distraction, deciding to abandon your true self in order to please others or avoid conflict, just like what I just said. It's never worth it. Never worth it. Lying to yourself or others. Yeah. Not really wanting to be in the truth of who you are. And so you start to make things up. Not a good idea. And last but not least, oh no, there's 2 more. Excuse me. I have 5 of them. So the 4th one is sacrificing your needs in order to belong or be included. Yeah. And that's even at work or if you're in high school, with your peers. But, that's with family, we do it a lot with family and it's not necessary, not necessary. And then last but not least, that fear of not being liked, loved, or accepted. Big distraction to you being able to be truthful with yourself and with others. Now, next Tuesday, following Tuesday, the 19th of February, we'll begin a mineral week. And I'll tell you all about that in the next broadcast. So, to complement what I just shared about the elemental wisdom, we have some astrological forecasting. Now, we just finished the new moon in Aquarius, and that was stepping into this new cycle, this new beginning. It had to do with, some new things showing up, like some blossoming. And that definitely was the experience I had. Some new opportunities has blossomed for me. Like I'm beginning to see that the seeds I planted years ago are really starting to ripen. And so we also had Chinese New Year on the 5th. So, again, it was like the beginning of a cycle and this promise of, some really good things coming to fruition. And so starting today through the 16th, we're going to be getting the energy of Mars and Uranus conjuncting. And basically, here's what that means. And they're doing it in the sign of Aries. And I got this information from a new astrologer online I found called astrobutterfly.com. The astrologer's name is Angelina, but that's her website. And she says very plainly, Mars is a planet of action. Uranus is a planet of freedom and liberation. And Aries is a sign of identity. So she says, Mars conjunct Uranus and Aries will ask you to come to terms with who you are. You will finally see yourself for who you really are behind the mask. Oh my goodness, love it. Happy with what you see? Show it to the world. Not happy? Take action, but just not the same type of action you've always taken. Uranus will lift you up. It will inspire you. It will show you what's possible. Take inspired action. And then she says, are you ready for the 2.0 version of yourself? Very sweet. And exciting. I mean, that's exciting to know that we are getting this astrological support to move into our truth. That's just so important. And again, my theme this month, Truthful Transformation. Can't make this stuff up. So let me tell you what I'm going to be doing tonight in this broadcast. I am going to, first of all, review what I shared last week about, no, 2 weeks ago about truthful transformation, and what I shared last week about the aspect of accountability, just to catch people up if this is the first video that you're accessing. And then I am going to talk about the Chinese astrological calendar and its relationship to time framing. And of course, I'll give you a definition of time framing. And then I'm going to end it all with a personal challenge, as always. As always. Put that there in front. I'm going to take a little sip of water. Okay. So I had two opening quotes that I shared in the announcement of the radio broadcast this week, and I really need to start posting them onto the box below this video, because I really think that they're really cool. The first one's by Harvey McKay, who is the writer of business books and best-selling author. And he says, and I really like this quote, "Time is free, but it's priceless. You can't own it, but you can use it. You can't keep it, but you can spend it. Once you've lost it, you can never get it back." I love that. It's just really so right on. And then my second one comes from Alice Walker. She's the author of The Color Purple, of course. And she says very succinctly, "Time moves slowly, but passes quickly." Yeah, yeah. And in both of those, it's telling us how very precious time is. So let me jump back to a quick definition of truthful transformation and about accessibility. And so truthful transformation is being more of who you truly are, because we can transform into anything, right? The universe is at endless possibilities. But if we're going to be fulfilled and have our happy endings in life, we need to transform into the truth of who we are. That way you get aligned with the things that you promised, the people that you're supposed to meet, the situations you're supposed to experience. You know, life gets smooth. And yeah, you're going to have your hills and valleys, but there's a smoothness to it. It's like you're not afraid and you don't feel victimized. You're just like, oh, okay, here's a good learning opportunity. Here I go. When you're not the truth of yourself, you get just the opposite. You're going to get thwarted. You're going to feel victimized. You're going to feel people are out to get you. You won't understand anything. It's just like a nightmare, a living nightmare. And so it's important that we, in this new age of illumination, having gone through the 2012 shift, really get it that we've got to step into the truth of who we are. And so that's, of course, going to raise a lot of conflict. It's going to create a lot of disruption. But this month, with the information I'm giving you, I hope that you'll find that it really is possible, and that there are some guideposts to help us along with that. So, of course, being truthful means you're not imitating anybody or someone else's journey. It means that you know you have promises to keep and you want to fulfill them. You know that what you do or don't do matters, because we're in a big net, a big connected net with everybody else in existence on the planet. And that what we do, it really does matter. It really does affect someone else. And again, as I always talk about, we're here to choose love over fear. And so doing our work is to strengthen our muscle to be able to do that. Now, I said that truthful transformation has these four aspects, that these four cultural events in the month of February would help to illuminate, help us understand better. And the first aspect of truthful transformation is accountability, meaning you have to take account of where you're at, where you want to go, how you need to get there. You have to take responsibility for being in a place that you don't want to be, and do what is needed to do in order to shift that around. And I use the movie Groundhog Day to illustrate that, and talked about that lead character who we get introduced to, who is not taking any kind of accountability for his life. And he's miserable. He's stuck, he's blocked. And as grace would be, the hand of spirit comes down and it sticks him into a time loop of February the 2nd. So every day he wakes up, it's still Groundhog Day. And he goes through a series of transitions, trying to get out of it, trying to ignore it, trying to change it. And then finally, through the power of love, he realizes that it is an opportunity for him to really grow and evolve himself, to take account of where he's at, where he wants to go, and how he's going to get there. And so I just love, love, love that movie. I watch it every year annually because it helps me stay very conscious about, okay, what time loop am I stuck in my life, and where at in my life, and what do I need to take account of? What do I need to take responsibility of so that I can keep moving forward? I also want to mention, because I've heard this from two people, and I haven't watched it yet, but it's on my watch list in Netflix. But there is a Groundhog Day-like kind of a modern, very modern version. So, there's going to be blood and guts, right, of Groundhog Day, called Russian Doll. And it's a woman who is celebrating her birthday and gets caught into that time loop. And she keeps dying. And so she keeps waking up and has to figure it out. But I've heard from two people I trust that it really is good. But it does have blood and guts in it. So truthful transformation, really important. We need to do that. We need to transform into the truth of who we are, and not who we think we should be, not who we thought we should be, not who we think will get the most brownie points, but who is it that we're really supposed to be? And one of the important aspects to get there is to be accountable to yourself, hold yourself accountable, and take responsibility. Tonight, I'm going to talk about time framing. And to do that, I'm going to be using the Chinese astrological calendar and zodiacal. Well, no, it would be zodiacal. Yeah, zodiacal. That's probably the way to say it. Aspects related to that, because it is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So time framing is something we do all the time, especially in Western culture, because we live by the clocks, right? So time frame just means that you have a sense of when something should begin, something should end, and that you move accordingly, or you do accordingly, to make sure that you get it within that time. So for example, most people work a job in some way, shape, or form. I don't care if you're begging in the street, that if that's your job, that's your job. And so what times you need to be out there. What times you need to be in your job. And that you have a certain amount of time to get things done in that day, in that week, in that month, in that year. Okay. So we are time framing all the time. It's kind of how we move through life. What is exciting to me about ancient wisdom is that it didn't just make it be about survival, your time framing. Okay. It's not just about, let me get my work done so I can get paid, my paycheck, and go home and, watch Netflix, watch Russian Doll on Netflix. No, it's more about you have a purpose. You came with certain aspects, certain gifts, certain talents, that you came born full, that you can live your life in such a way that you know that there is meaning to everything that happens to you, and that you're on a cycle that doesn't go like in a straight line so that it seems like, just you go on and on and on. But it's rather in the form of a cylinder. Okay, so it's cyclical. And in Black culture, we have a saying that says, what goes around comes around. And why I like a cyclical um, picture of our existence is because we grow. See, we evolve. If it's just a straight line, it's like I'm just on this flat plane, just moving forward. But there's no growth thing going on. But if I'm doing cyclical, I can see, okay, I may have started here, but I'm going here, and that when things come back around, I can make use of it, or to know that things are going to come back around and I can prepare for it. And that's basically what happens in Groundhog Day. He's in a cycle, he's in a loop. And so he can plan out his time, knowing that, he's going to get another opportunity to get it right. So time framing. Well, before I get more into it, let me give you some more about the Chinese astrology, because and why I think it's really fascinating and rich and deep in what it represents. So let me give you that little history, little background, and then I'll lay time framing against that and what I mean by that. So to start off with, the Chinese calendar, this is really interesting. It's made up of 12 elements and 5 elemental seasons. Okay. It uses Jupiter's orbit around the sun. And the orbit of Jupiter around the sun, unlike us, we are 24 hours. That's how fast we go. Jupiter, it takes 12 years. And again, I apologize. No, we're not going around the sun in 24 hours. Wouldn't that be amazing? No, oh my God. We're going around in 365 days. But for Jupiter, it takes 12 years to get around the sun. 12 years. Like, wow. That's amazing. Absolutely. So they use that time frame of Jupiter, and Jupiter is the biggest planet in our solar system. And so Jupiter is like, this, kind of almost like God. Jupiter's like God, right? And so it's saying this is about God's time. This is God's time, not man's time. This is God's time. So right away, the Chinese calendar introduces a very high aspect to what is happening in our lives. A very, very high, very sacred aspect, highly spiritual aspect to our living. Okay. So to reach maturity, to be an evolved elder, you must complete 5 of these 12-year cycles, meaning you have to reach the age of 60. And then a new cycle begins. And when we think about that, it's just fascinating. I'm going to come back to that because it really, really is very fascinating again. So again, this thinking about God's time, a time of a greater order and direction. Now, the history of this is that this information goes back 2,300 years before Common Era. Used to be say before Christ, but now they say before Common Era, BCE. And there were 2 emperors that initiated it, as their history goes, Emperor Yao and Emperor Shun. It got officially established as first day of the first month of the traditional Chinese calendar, which is interesting because it's both a lunar calendar, and the lunar month is 2 days less than a solar month, or the Gregorian calendar that we use. So they go off of a lunar calendar, which is 13 moons, and an agricultural calendar, which includes the seasonal changes. So again, it's a very indigenous type of calendar, and again, just ancient, so old. Now, this is really interesting. The legend of how the Chinese began to actually have a Chinese New Year's, which I think is really cool. So it says, according to the tales and legends, the beginning of Chinese New Year started with the fight against a mythical beast called the Year. So that would be the translation of it for us from Chinese. In Chinese, I think it's like Jian. Maybe it's pronounced that way. I'm not exactly sure, but it's spelled Gian. Anyway, the Year looked like an ox with the head of a lion and was believed to inhabit the sea. On the night of New Year's Eve, the Year would come out to harm animals, people, and their properties. Eventually, people discovered that the Year feared the color red, feared fire, and it feared loud sounds. Therefore, for self-protection, people formed the habits of posting red dewy lian, these are Chinese New Year's crafts, in front of their houses, launching fireworks, which they first started with burning bamboo, because when bamboo gets heated up, it pops and cracks, and then hanging lanterns at the end of the year, at the year end. So, that's why when you see the celebrations of Chinese New Year's, you're going to always see a lot of red, But I think that's just so fascinating. It's like, this is what we've got to do to keep this beast. And, from a mythological and archetypal perspective, it's really saying that that beast would be like all the bad things, all the bad stuff, And so we've got to do something to make sure that we start off our year with good stuff. So we got to keep that bad stuff away, And it's similar to what Mardi Gras or Carnival, Shrove Tuesday in France would be in the religious year, Christian religious year of celebrating King Rex and all the bad stuff, getting it all out, because the next day you start Lent, and there's 40 days up to when the resurrection of the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ happened. So again, in cultures, there is this notion of we've got to do something to keep this bad stuff at bay, to keep it back. And again, what I really like about this wisdom is it's saying that in life, you're going to have the good and the bad. There's an acceptance of it, but saying that we don't have to let the bad take over and win. We can be mindful and we can do things, to stop that. And that's basically what healing is about, So there, again, it's a lot of rich textures in this whole notion of a Chinese New Year. Now, for some of you who may not be as familiar, because maybe you've not been to a Chinese restaurant, and on the placemat they give you, you see the Chinese astrology of the 12 animals. I'll just tell you very quickly what they are. You've got the rat, the ox, the tiger, the rabbit, the dragon, the snake, the horse, the sheep or the ram, the monkey, the rooster, the dog, and the boar or pig. And this year we're actually in the year of the earth pig. It's earth pig year. Now, these animals represent how others perceive you or how you present yourself. There's animals also assigned not just to the year you were born, and the timing is off from the Gregorian calendar. So it wouldn't start in January 1st. It's going to actually start right with the February. So that's why you can have two people in Western culture born in a year, but with two different signs. Because if you're born in January up into February, before the new year starts, you're going to be in the sign that was applied to the year before. So it's really, again, it's really interesting. It's complex and really delicious. But so you can get an animal, not just for your year, but also for the month that you were born. for the day that you were born and for the hour that you were born. And so the animal for the year that you was born represents kind of, your external self, like what you're going to present to the world. The one for the month that you were born is your inner self. For the day that you were born, it's your true self. And then the hour you were born is your secret self. I just love that. Just love, love, love that. But as you can see, it's like the Chinese calendar is trying to say, master yourself, master yourself. Know these different aspects about you. Know what you came in with and what you have moving through you. So you're going to have, these 5 different animals working around you, and there's 5 different aspects of yourself, your inner, your outer, and it's, really, really wonderful stuff. Because again, in Western culture, we don't think about all this. We don't consider all this, and that's because we've lost so much of our indigenous wisdom. The other thing that is really interesting too, and this is the last thing I'll say on it before I start to give you how the time framing, what I mean by the time framing with this, but there are 5 elements, just like the 5 elements of the medicine wheel, wisdom key. The Chinese have these 5 elemental energies that they also use. And these energies have both a yin and a yang aspect, so a masculine and a feminine. And they lay these over each of those zodiacal animals in the 12 years. So not only do you get your animal for the year, but you get your element associated with that animal and whether or not it's yin or yang. So for example, this earth pig year, so it's the year of the pig, but it's the element of earth, which is kind of a transition time is what it represents. It's transition time between summer and autumn is basically what that is. And I believe we're in a yin period for this. That was the only one I couldn't find in when I was trying to research all this today. But I think it's just so, so amazing. And just for your information, the 5 elements of the Chinese are wood, which correlates with spring, fire, which correlates with summer, earth, which correlates again with this transition time between summer and autumn, metal is for autumn, and then the final one is water, which is winter. So again, all of this information for the time that you were born to give you a greater understanding that you were born on purpose, that you are here for something, that there's something you have to fulfill, that you're not just disposable. You matter. You matter. And that's just so important for truthful transformation. We have to know that we matter. Now, time framing again, it's this conscious use of the time that we have to live out our purpose and to keep our promises, okay? Conscious use of the time. We time frame all the time, like I said, especially in modern culture, but we don't think of it as being part of a big cycle. Like the God cycle of Jupiter, that 12-year cycle, and the 60-year cycle that also, tells us when we've gone through the whole shebang to get to the point where we can be a wise elder. So the Chinese calendar and its related astrology is just one ancient method that demonstrates how your time matters because it supports self-mastery and purposeful living. Clearly about that. And again, every ancient culture would have had some type of calendar, some kind of process to help people know that you were born at a certain time for a certain reason, and that you could then, develop and focus and understand your life from the perspective of, oh, okay, I have a purpose. I have a purpose. Again, according to the Chinese astrology, we are in a 60-year cycle because it goes by these 60-year cycles, right? And The one we're in right now, it began in 1984. Isn't that interesting? And it will complete in 2044. Very interesting. Now, the previous one began in 1924 and it ended in 1984. The cycles always begin with the young wood, okay, and wood is the spring, right? And of course, it always ends with the yin water, which is the winter. And just that aspect of it, you're going to start off, of course, where things are growing and things are, opening up. It's the beginning. And then in the winter, right, that's when things have completed or come to a rest or come to an end, have disappeared or invisible, so that the cycle can start again. And so this notion of the fact that things have a beginning and an ending. And a lot of times I think that we forget that, especially when things aren't going well. It seems like, oh my God, this will never end. I was coaching someone earlier this week, and they're going through some challenges with an issue that's been going on for a while. And they were saying to me, oh, Jojopah, I don't know if this is ever going to end. And I said to them, oh, well, of course it is. Of course it is. Everything has a beginning and everything has an end. And it's only when we forget that we suffer. Yeah. But it's hard to remember sometimes. But, this is so true. Now, by experiencing your life from a perspective of frames of time, you can stay more awake and aware of being and living on purpose. Why is that important? It's important because you've got so many decisions to make in life about how to live, where to live, what to eat, what to wear, what kind of job do you want? What kind of job do you want to keep? What happens when you lose your home, when a fire comes or an earthquake? What happens when you lose a loved one, right? So by knowing that there is timing, there's time frames in your life, I think it can bring some comfort, because instead of it being, this is how life is and this is the only way life can be, no, you can say, oh, okay, this is a time frame that I'm going through. This is a period that I am moving through. But it's not going to last. It's going to end at some point. I think that's healthy for us. I think it's what enables us to have hope. I know from my ancestors who were in slavery, they believed that. They didn't believe that they were going to be slaves forever. And they actually did things preparing for the time when their grandchildren or great-grandchildren or great-great-great-grandchildren would be free. So they lived with this understanding of time framing. I mean, that's the only way you can live through and make it through something like that, wait, this is going to come to an end. And, so when it does, what is it I can do now to support, what happens after it ends, to support it coming to an end? That's what faith and hope and belief really is about. And so time framing really helps us to be in that level of consciousness, that awakeness, to be that awake. Now, here's the other really important point I want to make about time framing and why I love the Chinese calendar so much and their cycle of 12 and of 60 years. In Western culture, we're afraid to age. Okay, let's just really, really say it. I'm guilty of that myself at sometimes. It's like we want to be Peter Pan. We never want to grow up. We never want to look old. We don't want to go there. We just want to be young forever. We want to be a beautiful corpse, and we just don't want to deal with getting old. But think about this. What if you believe that you were being given the opportunity to become the best that you can be over a 60-year period? Okay, that's your time frame, 60 years. And that completing that cycle meant that you were now able to navigate through life and achieve at last, or even more of, your happy endings in life. What if it takes going around Jupiter's sun 5 times in order to really to be on God's time, in order to really know what this is really about, why you're really here, what it is you have to do, how to be in alignment with your truth, with your highest purpose, and to get benefit from that. What if you could think in that way? Wouldn't there be a difference in terms of how you thought about aging, thought about how you looked or needed to look? If there was a promise that you were going to have this wisdom and this internal wisdom and understanding and belief about the truth of who you are. Because this, this crude matter, as Yoda says, right? This physical, the spacesuit that we're in, it's temporal. It's not going to last. It's not supposed to. What does last? Well, what if by the age of 60, you could be in touch with what is really real about you, what really matters? What if you could do that? You'd be like Judi Dench, the actress. Because it was when she turned 60 that her career just goes, it really spirals. And she already was known. I mean, she's a great Shakespearean actress. She had a hit television show on in England. Judi Dench, yeah, she's good. She can act. But I mean, like, she's like superstar. And she loves her wrinkles. I know that. She loves her wrinkles because she's not afraid for the camera to show them and to get really big close-ups of them. She loves her wrinkles. She's not afraid of them. She's not afraid of being the age that she is. She's even said she's having the best time of her life. So clearly, Judi learned that, yeah, okay, I got some wisdom now. Now I can navigate. Now I can have more of my happy endings showing up. And she's working all the time. She's getting roles that, there's young actresses out there that are gorgeous that ain't working as much as Judi Dench is, And she works as much or as little as she wants. She got it like that, They send her scripts all the time. She look it over and say, nah, I'm not feeling like this one, but, let me know in another couple of months and I'll see what I say. She's got it going on. And that's where we can be in life when we discover the truth of who we really are and can honor the fact that there is this time frame, this huge, sacred, spiritual, godly, cosmic truth time frame that we can exist within, coexist, if you will. We don't have to be opposed to it. We don't have to be afraid of time running out. We can use the time in a good way. I want you to think about if you are between the ages of 20 and 40, watching this or listening to this, if you believe that 60 was a huge graduation, would you take better care of your body, of your mind, and of your spirit right now? And if you're 60 or older, like I am, are you living the best part of your life right now? Why or why not? Yeah. 2 good contemplative questions, which I will post on my Facebook page and put in the box below after I finish the live streaming. And here's your personal challenge. Here's your personal challenge for this week. I want you to identify what part of your 60-year cycle are you in according to the Chinese calendar, okay? So according to the Chinese calendar. So you're going to find out, what year you were born as it relates to the Chinese calendar, see what your animal is. You can also go into what animal for your month, your day, your hour. It's really cool. You can find this information easily online, but I found really good stuff on Wikipedia. I just Googled Zodiac, Chinese Zodiac, and so you can find it there. And some other sites. There's one that's called the Chinese New Year's.com, which also gave history and some good stuff. And again, there's really good stuff out there. But I want to challenge you to consider really looking at that, to learn a little more about yourself. And the second part of this is, what about your birth animal and the seasonal element that resonates with you and why? Mhm. For example, I'm a fire rooster. I'm a fire rooster. And yeah, totally resonates with me in big ways. And one of the good things about being a rooster, and any of the animals, okay, they're going to have a positive aspect and a negative aspect, okay? So of course what the rooster is, ruling the barnyard, but at the same time being a little arrogant and overbearing and always having to be right, all that kind of stuff is associated with it. But one of the ways that it really does work for me, it lets me know that this leadership ability that I experience and feel is part of who I am and why I came. So I got so teased when I was in school, like a lot of people do. We didn't call them nerds then. I was called lame. And so that had me go through a period of questioning, or I was told, oh, you talk all the time. Your mouth is too big. You always want to be in charge of something. You're also bossy. I was always told that. And then you start to question, and really what it's about is, no, this is an aspect that I have, and I need to find the right environment and the right time to use it, and to know the purpose in using it. So it's not just about being a rooster, but I'm a rooster because, and here's how I serve, and here's what makes sense, and here's what I do. So that's just a quick personal example for you how, time framing through using this kind of a methodology, this kind of system, can really help you step more fully into the truth of who you are, or understand where the conflicts are, why something isn't working out, why a situation might not be working out. And you look at it and you say, oh, wow, okay. I got this wood energy, but I'm acting like I'm metal. Exactly. And then last but not least, in your personal challenge, what would you like to shift about your life, and what is your time frame for making that happen? Well, I'm going to close out tonight, as I always do, by giving thanks to my wonderful engineer, Miss Yvette Parker of Black Hole Radio, Be Well family. Thank you all so much. I couldn't do this broadcasting over Blog Talk without you. I really, really am so grateful for the support that you give me every week. I also want to say thank you to my regular listeners and watchers like Miss Sarah, my #1 fan, who I'm so grateful for all the support and the royal living that she supports me in. I also want to do a shout out to my friend Nancy and thank her so much for all her lovely, lovely support that she has garnered to me as I have been moving through a family tragedy. And she's been one person that I can always reach out to and get some really good support. So I really, really thank her for that. To all of those who have wisdom walk with me, and you know who you are. To those of you who are my family and spiritual kin, my transformational leadership colleagues around the country, my medicine brothers and sisters around the world, and all those who may be listening in or watching for the first time, thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so grateful for you because I could not do this work without you. Now, next week, I will continue with Truthful Transformation by discussing vulnerability as it relates to Valentine's Day. I love talking about love, so it's going to be a really, really, really fun show for me. Again, just remember I have a Facebook page called Wisdom Walk Radio, and my YouTube channel is called Wisdom Walk 2 Self-Mastery. I do have a book that will be coming out. I don't have the exact timing, but I think it might be by the middle of April. I will definitely keep you posted on that. And last but not least, I would like to thank my God, my ancestors, my spirit guides, my loving entities, everything that walks with me, keeps my head to the sky, my feet to the ground, and my heart open to do this important work with and for all of you. Please go out and have a fabulous fire week. Be in the truth of who you are. Let Mars conjuncting with Uranus in Aries support you in living your truth and speaking your truth and being your truth. And most importantly, please remember, you are not disposable. You are divine. Good night now.